Today I will be going over how to use the Cricut Cake machine with the Shortcuts a Lot 2 software, particularly how to customize and set up your settings to your preference. Cricut made an announcement back in 2018 that they would no longer support the Cricut Craft Room, leaving all of the older Cricut machines or legacy machines without a design program to edit our images. That led us very limited to use only images on our cartridges if we own any Cricut cartridges. That is where the Shortcuts a Lot 2 software comes in pretty handy. Now, in order to be able to use the software on the Cricut Cake machines, you have to have a compatible firmware on your machines. In this case, for both the Cricut Cake or the Cricut Mini, the firmware versions need to be the V2.1 or the 2.3. Now, in order to find the current firmware installed on your Cricut machine, you can turn on your machine and immediately it will show on the display what version is installed. Now let's get started with the actual software and how it's set up when you first open it. As you can see, as soon as it opens up, which in case I already have it open, you will see these tabs. There's a total of 5 tabs. You'll have the Tools tab. You'll have the tabs with the mat on here. You'll have the Properties tab. You'll have the Shapes, Basic Shapes tab, and your fonts. I will start with the Mat tab at the top. There's a number of tabs with different settings and editing options. What I do want to go over first is under the actual Windows tab, there is a Workspace tab, which allows you to set up the workspace. And by workspace, I mean the actual setup of the tabs. So what I mean is, say you can barely see anything on this mat. So I would like to have more space for my actual images to be able to be better shown on here. So you can reduce, rearrange, resize these as you please. So I'm going to make my mat bigger. And you can always just adjust these later if you want to use any of these. I want to make it a little bit longer here. So there's that. Now you can rearrange these pages however you want. Say that this is what you want. You have a larger workspace now that it's more visible. You go back to the Windows tab. You hit the Workspace option and you can save this exact setup for future use. So hit Save and you can name it. So I'll just put my workspace M1, whatever you want to name it. Press OK. So when you go back to the Windows under the Workspace tab, you can see I already have a couple saved here, and the one that we just saved is this one. So to show you difference, this is a previous one that I had set up. So you can see that it's a little bit different setup and it has different options. You can edit these, you can delete them, you can rename them under the Manage Workspaces tab. So say I don't really want that one anymore. Let's delete it, no biggie, it's gone. So that's pretty much it with that. Next we'll look at the Properties tab, which is in the upper right corner. This tab will give you the option to resize your mat according to what machine you have. You can set it to 12 inches by 6 inches if you own the Cricut Cake Mini. And if you own the original Cricut Cake, you can set it up to 12 by 12. Or you can set it up to 12 by 24 if you wish. Now the other option that it also gives you is orientation. And this just changes the direction that the arrow is pointing, which usually is just an indication of where you're actually, which side you're going to feed the mat into the machine. So you can have it vertical or horizontal. And then horizontal, you've noticed that it's just switched to the side. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can zoom out some more, 50%, 75, depending on what your preference is. You have that option. Under that, we have the page, which is just basically indicated we have one page. If you add a second page, you can click yes, which basically is kind of like a second option there for you. Now, when you are actually working with an image and actually editing that image, you can see that now under the Properties tab, you now have new options and new settings. So this particular tab or window lets you know the width and height. So say you want that number 8 to be an inch tall. I do want to mention this. When you're upsizing or scaling down, you always want to check that keep proportions box. Otherwise, you kind of see it's kind of like funky shaped now. So let's say we made a mistake and we want to undo it. Go to the edit settings, hit undo until you undo what you want undone. So there it is, back to its original size. We are going to click keep proportions and say I want it 2 inches this time. So now it's evenly proportions throughout, and it automatically calculates the height for you, so it keeps its proportions. You can rotate this, skew it, whatever you want to do with it. So that's an option. Down here, it gives you the option for text as well. The height, width, tracking, rotate. You can play with all these settings to get familiar with them. And under that, you will have, actually above that, you'll have the appearance, which you can do a shadow effect. You can do a blackout, kind of like an outline if you're cutting an outline. So just play around with those and get a feel for it. Below that, you have the Layers tab, which shows you all of the different layers of the image that you're editing. In this case, you don't have any layers. It's just that solid 8, so you only see that one layer under here. And again, in order for the Layers tab to be shown, you have to be using the Advanced Workspace, because if you switch over to the Basic, you can see that that Layers option is now gone. So you want to go back to the Workspace in Advanced, and there's your layers again. Next, the basic shapes, which I've kind of already showed you a little bit here. We can add whatever you want. You can go under View All, we can do favorites if you like a particular one. Say you're looking for some cool newborn images. There's lots of neat little images that you can play around with if you're doing a baby shower cake or something cute like that, a little feet on there. You can play around with these, and there's all sorts of different options for you. And then the fonts, which is just a basic fonts and punctuation options for you. I will be adding a link under the description box with a page with a help menu. This will give you a step-by-step instructions with pictures on all of the basic and different settings in the program. Now you can also access this help menu right up here at the top under help, and it will pop up right here. This will help you with all those details getting started. And it has cool little neat pictures, which are very handy if you're stuck somewhere, if you're doing a particular project and you want to weld them together, which I will be going over these in a future video. Some of your settings. So pretty neat stuff, very handy info will be available through here. So either through the link in the description or through here. So this pretty much covers the very first video on how to set up and customize your workspace. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I would love it if you guys subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you found this helpful. So yeah, thank you very much for watching.